Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Kevin Moore Show. Now, if you want to stay up to date with all my latest videos, just click that subscribe button below, as this really helps to support the show. Now, if you're new to the show, I interview guests from a spiritual perspective, covering mainstream and alternative subjects and much more. Now, on today's show, I'm about to be joined by my two guests, Marcus and Sheila Gillette. Now, they're the co-founders of the Theo Group, an organization dedicated to sharing the wisdom and teachings of the 12 archangels, collectively known as Theo, and they speak directly through Sheila. Now, Theo is here to guide humanity during this unprecedented shift to a higher state of consciousness. And on today's show, we're going to discuss with both Sheila, Marcus, and Theo spiritual and psychic exploration and what it means to develop your own psychic ability. Now, there is a 2-day virtual retreat coming up where you can work with others to start and open your own spiritual and psychic abilities, which takes place on the weekend of April the 24th and 25th. Just go to asktheo.com/psychic KM, where you can go to the registration page there, and there's a free video called Everyone is a Channel, in which Theo teaches a class on how to start the process of channeling, and it's only available through the website. So just go to the page asktheo.com/psychic KM, and the link is in the description below. So let's get into the interview, and let me welcome my two guests, Sheila and Marcus Gillette. Thank you for joining us, and welcome to the show.
We are happy to be here, Kevin. It's a pleasure and a joy to be with you today.
It's our pleasure to be with you, Kevin. It's really nice to see you again. Certainly a lovely time to spend with you.
Oh, it's always good to spend with you guys. I was just saying that before we started recording here. It really is. I do really enjoy the work that you do, and I appreciate the hard work that you put in as well. I mean, you guys are always busy, right? There's a lot going on right now, and I think people are, this is a great time to really help people. People are looking right now, aren't they, for a lot of self-improvement as well, would you say?
Absolutely. Everything's changing for all of us. The trajectory of our lives have changed, as Theo portended in the end of 2019, in November. They said 2020 was going to change the trajectory of all our lives. They didn't say how it was going to happen, but then we now have lived through 2020, and we're having glimpses of a new life, our new lives, but a new life for the world coming to fruition. And we are participants in that, and we are creators in that. And so many people are feeling that a desire in this change, and finding changes within themselves. So it's an incredible time. Theo says it's an exquisite time to be alive, even though it's as challenging as it's been.
Yes, absolutely. And as you say, this is a very special year in that sense. And you must have already seen at the beginning part of this year, people that you knew as well, you do know, and the changes that just they're going through as well. No one's not affected, are they, by that inner change, even if it doesn't show up on the outside?
Oh, everybody's affected. Yeah. And I think that the pandemic has driven people more into themselves, asking higher calibrated questions. And the fifth dimension energy that we're living in right now is doing the same. It's initiating, inspiring higher, more introspective questions about, what's possible now, right? And so all of these things combined have brought us to a place where there's greater interest in all things spiritual and psychic expansion, I think, than ever before.
I know. I mean, what a great time to be doing the work that you're doing right now. I mean, it was a great time, before, don't get me wrong. But I mean, now you can see God, it's just so benefiting to some people, isn't it? It's so healing what you're able to offer people that, I mean, what a time to do that. And, being the power that you are right now, do you know what I mean? With your own journey as well. But do you think, or do you ever feel that you guys as much as you've done this work for so many years, you're still tested in a way that even in the times like they are right now, you're still growing as well yourselves.
Oh yeah, yeah. If you aren't on um, on the edges of becoming, if you would, uh, there will be no growth. So, for the intention of growth, and not to be afraid of it, so many people step back from it, of the challenge. If we embrace the challenges that are there, they're just there to grow us. And I learned years ago in doing this work, there's always challenges, with the work, with life itself. And if I just embraced them, the growth was exponential. It was incredible. And actually, it's made me the person I am today, which is pretty great. I'm feeling really good about the evolution of me through this process.
Well,
And
yeah,
I think everybody I talk to, who greets the challenges rather than from resisting them to embracing them, they're finding a greater ease and grace in life rather than angst.
and we're probably more curious, more inspired than we've ever been, Kevin. And there's this sense of wonder for what's next. What's the next expression in human bodies now with this higher vibration that we're all becoming. And so it's like we don't even know. I mean, Theo gives us ideas and gives us a sense of what of the wonder of it all, the miracle of it all as we're moving forward here, but we don't even know yet. And that's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, I love both your answers there. Thank you so much for that. And obviously, you do a number of retreats as well, where people, get to have a one-to-one with yourselves and with Theo. And when you sort of contacted me to let me know that there was a sort of a psychic exploration retreat coming up, I was like, oh my God, yeah, my audience would love that. I mean, that's the thing that I'm into as well, that type of work as well. So. Just very briefly, just tell us about the retreat that's coming up, and how Theo fits into that retreat as well.
Marcus?
This is Sheila's baby. This was her creation, so I'm going to let her take this question to start with.
Okay. Well, it is a retreat that's based on experiencing all the different ways that we receive intuitively. And we get to experiment with them. Back when I opened up to doing this work over 50 years ago, I didn't have a mentor to teach me other than Theo, which was a pretty good mentor, to say the least. But I knew back then that I wanted to be a person to assist others so that they would move out of the fear of being intuitive or psychic, because there'd been so many mistruths about those kinds of things that have frightened people, or they've been told they couldn't do it when they opened up as a child. And so to be somebody that can be there with you when you're having some wonderful experiences, actually, and say, it's okay, you can do this. And you are particularly attuned to it because you're a spiritual divine being living a human experience. And it is your birthright, really. The beauty of having a physical body is that we're sentient beings. Our body's our greatest receptor to all these wonderful experiences and connectivity and communications. So it's a retreat that allows people to step into those realms, test it, if you would. We have primary receiving. We all do. If we're visual learners and very visual people, oftentimes it's through visions, dreams. They get messages in snapshots or pictures, where an auditory person will receive auditorily in their inner mind hearing, clairaudience. So we go through all of those different ways of receiving what your primary receptor is, but you have all the abilities to receive in all the other ways too. So we experiment with them in a very safe environment with each other. And it's amazing what people find out about themselves in the sense of how intuitive and connected that they are, and how you can use this in your daily life. Not something that you just put in a box over here to take out periodically. It's something I use every day in my life that I've benefited from. And we all do, Kevin. That's the thing. We may call it something else, but we all use our intuitive gifts and our sensory perceptivities. Our body, for an example, always tells us if we're in a safe place, if where we are is safe. That's just innate. And so we have that we use. But most people, because of how they were taught or beliefs that were shared with them from others, think that they aren't that receptive, but they just call it something else, gut feeling. They just use different words.
Kevin, this particular I was just going to say, this particular retreat is a virtual retreat. We've done this live a number of times, and one of the most amazing things that happens is to watch people, and oftentimes men who never thought they were psychic at all. In fact, oftentimes they've been dragged there by their wives, quite frankly. And to see the joy, to see the wonderment, to see the absolute sheer delight on the part of men and women who had come in with no notion that they were psychic at all. And to have these confirmations of how psychic to get the hits one after the other. We have done this virtual retreat that we're going to be doing is going to give us the very same opportunity to experiment and play together, have a ton of fun, connect with people from all around the world that we'll be playing with. And this, Sheila calls it the psychic sandbox or the psychic playground. And then I just want to say this too about Sheila too, because, obviously, you and me, Kevin, we're just like normal guys, right? We haven't had a near-death experience. We don't channel 12 archangels. We don't have the psychic credentials, of course, that Sheila has. But I will tell you that ordinary guys like you and me and ordinary men and women are coming to this playground and having these remarkable experiences, ordinary people having extraordinary experiences. And then to have Sheila and Theo as our guides for this weekend together. And there's a lot of Theo time too, as it relates to Theo teaching, and it's all question activated from the audience as well, and also giving confirmations of the experiences that we've all had. So it's very expansive and empowering. And the last thing I want to share about to what Sheila just said is it removes all the fear. So all the fear of the unknown goes out the window because we're having a personal experience to enlighten us to that.
Yes, absolutely, Marcus. And I think it's so important, a course like this. I'm going to try to, be at the course and attend for the couple of days that it's on for, because this is like near and dear to my heart, this kind of stuff is. And, we all have that intuitive ability, don't we? We can all, I always say this in my shows, we're all a soul having a human experience. Would you both agree with that?
Absolutely.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So, but not all of us are sort of open, are we? Some of us are sort of born open, aren't we? We're born with that I don't know if open's the right word, but that ability just to know that's it's there, and we can use it to help others. And also, my other question leading on from that is, what is the difference then for yourself, Sheila, as well, from a psychic to the sort of channeling gift that you've got as well?
Well, they go hand in hand. Truly, they do. But the channeling, when it came, and it was spontaneous to me after my near-death experience, I it gives me the knowing that this is for a higher source. They would prefer I wouldn't say higher and make that differentiation, for they say no one is better than another, but that these teachers come through in the purest of the information to be given, that in allowing that, when I first began, I was a full trance spiritual medium, direct voice spiritual medium. And that meaning that I allowed them to speak directly through me and not just to me. And so in allowing that, I knew that the purest of information was coming through, and would not be distorted, which was my intention. And that's been true for now 5 decades. But on the flip side of that, I have psychic impressions and prophetic dreams and lucid dreams and knowings and solid state knowing without doubt. And I have clairaudience. When Theo wants to talk to me directly, I can hear them in my inner mind. They don't speak to me as we hear each other externally, but internally in my mind, as we hear our own thoughts, I hear Theo's voice.
Most of us then, do you think, are we most of us having a voice speak to us? And do you think that voice we could call our soul? And do you think our soul's trying to tell us something?
I think our soul's always talking to us. Theo says your higher power knows. And what that means is our higher self, our oversoul, our connectivity to source. And I believe it's always directing us. Now, it may direct us in different ways, like I said, with visions, or it could be messages, could be dreams, it could be many, many ways that it shows up where we can receive it. That's the most important thing, because it comes to us in ways that we can receive and accept it psychologically and emotionally.
Yes, and when we don't listen, it never gives up on us, does it, when we don't listen? And maybe there are no mistakes, just experiences, but when we don't listen, we could have trusted and listened, and I'm sure that the results could have been, I don't want to use the word better, but a different type of experience. But I guess though that when we learn to listen, I guess the any lessons or experiences that we've got to go through just become a little bit easier, don't they?
Oh, I believe that that's true. And what I have found is that we listen and we hear with our hearts, we hear from our soul, and we get the message, and then our intellectual mind goes in there and tells us it's not right, wants to make logic out of it, because most of the time it's illogical. And so Theo will often say to us, your first impression, the first message, pay attention to that. And I can tell in my own life experiences, when I've gotten that first impression, that first message, and then my intellect comes in and goes, oh, no, like driving the car before GPS and thinking, my messages turn left. And then my intellect goes, no, that's wrong, go right. And I've gone right just to find out that left was the proper turn. It's just simple things like that you begin to learn to pay attention to those messages and to follow them straight away. First message. That's been my lesson anyway.
Right, so when we do tune into our inner voice or our soul, we're basically coming less from fear, and we're even trusting and following our potential dreams as well.
I think we're more prone to, because we step out of that fear base, especially when we have evidence in our lives that I was just talking about that we can trust. It's all about trust. And then Kevin, you throw in the mix of all the guides and mentors and teachers that we have that are there to serve us as well.
Well, yeah, and how would you know the difference when you're sort of you think you're tuning into your soul, or you think something that voice within? Just call it that. It's a voice within your head. It's you, but it's a greater part of yourself that's just a bit more aware and wiser. And yeah, would you know that's differentiated from guides or as you say, groups?
Quite frankly, I don't know. And I beg the question, does it matter if it's good information? Because it's all connected, right? If it's your higher self, that's your soul connected to that guidance. So the messages could be coming from the angelic guidance, those that guide you and mentor and teach you, to the higher self, which then disseminates that information to us.
Don't you think also, Sheila, there's a different tone sometimes, or a different, there's a certain way we receive from, for instance, specific angelic guides. This has been my experience anyway, versus the knowing that comes in from kind of the full soul, higher guidance knowing too. There's a little bit, sometimes there's a little difference in just how it feels or how we hear it sometimes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, what's so cool about what she was talking about too, Kevin, is to have the experience, the evidence that she was talking about removes that fear. And when you talk about moving forward in your life with more confidence, more courage, less resistance, less fear, and really ultimately feeling super comfortable in your skin because you're raising your vibrational frequency in a way that is beginning to become your full soul and the knowledge that's contained within that. So we just seem to have a little different way of navigating through life when we've had this kind of evidence that she was talking about.
Absolutely. And you mentioned at the beginning of this conversation about, the sort of, helping people move to the fifth dimension, out from where they are. And I think what you mean by that is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the idea of, connecting to that greater part of yourself is a shift in complete reality in a sense, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? If we want to keep embracing it after we've connected with it. Yeah, it's would you say this with fifth dimension when you talk about that it's raising yourself to a more loving space for yourself and others, and it's becoming aware of like as you say, intuition more, and just shifting your energy in a sense.
Yes, you start living from a different place. Start living from a place of trust and curiosity.
Endless curiosity. Yeah. And by the way, the best book, most important book I've ever read in my entire life, Kevin, was called The Fifth Dimension: Channels to a New Reality. And I read it in 1995. And in 1997, I met and married the author of that book.
Yes,
so you want to talk about a true life-changing book. That was it. But yeah. That was Sheila's book she published back in 1988. Talking about this time that we're living in right now, too.
Well, yeah, and how crazy is that, right? How crazy is it's not crazy, but I mean, just the thought of it is still, amazing, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Even though that you're living in that energy every day, but you've also been to other retreats, a bit like this one, and you've had some amazing stories, which I know you've got a guy. You guys have both got a book coming out soon, The Art of Relationship, and there was a couple of stories in that book, which is sort of coincides with what we're talking about as well. Or if you want to, if there's one particular story you want to share, you can do.
Well, I don't know the stories you're talking about, so if you'd like to share one,
okay.
Do you want to share the story, Sheila, about us being sitting outside the sweat lodge with the Native American children?
Sure.
Yeah.
You start.
Well, this was what's cool about this story, and we do share this in our upcoming book, is that it was simultaneous. So we were having a multi-dimensional experience, a past life recall. Some would call it a bit of a collapse of time and space in a really kind of miraculous way, where we both found ourselves in a different time in the same place with different Native American garb, if you will, on, clothing, with these two children that were playing in front of the outside. We were waiting for our turn to go into the sweat lodge. And as I was having this experience of a complete, being in a complete different time, but in the very same place, I looked over at Sheila and I asked her if she saw what I was seeing. And I began to explain what I was experiencing, and she began to explain the exact same thing. So we had this simultaneous experience of being in another lifetime with these two children who were our children in a previous incarnation, in this very same place, in this magical place at towards the bottom of the Grand Canyon called the Havasupai. And the people there are known as the people of the blue-green waters, and it's a wonderful, magical kind of place. But Sheila, the cool thing about that experience was that we were having it at the very same time.
Yeah, it's interesting to be with somebody, and then you begin being witness to being in a different time and place in that multidimensional space. And then looking at Marcus, and he's looking at me, and we're saying, are you seeing what I'm seeing? And describing the same scene to each other. It was pretty electric and incredible, and evidentiary of, yeah, we have other experience in other times in our multidimensionality. And when we are open to it, these spontaneous types of things can happen if we make them welcome, if we make them available to ourselves. And fear is a great resistor, And so I understand that as well, because most people think, oh my gosh, something will take me over, or I will never come back to now. And that's just simply untrue. People have out-of-body experiences. The moment they think body, they're back in their body. So I can understand that concern when people just first start opening up, if they've been a bit afraid of it before. So that's the point of the retreat, is moving past that fear and knowing that each of us is in control. We're powerful souls. We're powerful divine beings that are here having the human experience, and we're in control. Theo says that nothing or no one can do anything to us without our permission. So when people, when we get in these experimental opportunities like the retreat is, and we get to learn and experience how powerful we really are, that gives us the confidence then to continue to expand and grow.
Yes, it does. And for some people, it could be their very first time into this work, or for others, it could be a curiosity to sort of just, continue the work to a different level. I guess you cater for all sorts of people when they come into a program like that.
That's true. It meets everybody where they are. Whether you're a beginner or you've been working with your intuitive gifts and your abilities, and whatever level you're at, it will meet you there and accelerate you to another level.
Yeah, and for those people thinking, well, what does it feel like if I'm being called by my soul? Is it just my voice in my head? That's my own voice that's sort of screaming at me in ways that it just feels unusual, right? Or is it the sort of feeling from wherever it may be, your stomach or wherever, that's sort of like pulling you, whatever feeling it is, that's like you just know that something is calling. But what does it feel like? Do you think? What did it feel like for you guys when something calls you?
Oh gosh, all the things you mentioned. It can be a gut feeling. I know I often get a feeling that's so strong, there's no doubt. It's a must. I must do this. I'm being compelled to follow that feeling. would be a way I could describe it.
Or your life has sort of collapsed around you. Everything you thought you had is gone. So it wasn't anything, internally that you felt, well, you're maybe going through some stuff because of that, but it's other things around you that have collapsed. And so it is from that different perspective maybe as well.
It can be that too, a fresh start, what I liken it to, just you're saying that, what came to mind was you learned the lesson, now you can go on. This is finished. This is complete. And then be enthusiastic about what's next.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And maybe your soul's calling you from that perspective of clearing what you were going through karmically with a situation or someone, because you've been doing it for so long, and actually now's the time for it to say, on with the next. We don't need to keep repeating this again and again like we're doing. Or maybe you lose some bodily function. Could that be true? Could that be your soul calling you, like eyesight or some sort of health issue?
I think anything's possible that transforms us.
But we've got to be wanting to see it from that perspective, though, haven't we? We may be going through a massive mourning stage of year after year, and only, not really improving in what the message is trying to tell us, because we don't want to see it or accept it or whatever it may be.
Well, you have to trust that life is not happening to you, that life, in fact, is happening through you and with you and as you, and that you have to trust that your soul's creating the perfect experience for its highest learning in this lifetime, right? And trusting that shifts how we view things, and we find gifts and blessings in situations that are otherwise really difficult to go through.
Yeah, so true, right? But for some people, I guess they're just they're pained by it. And maybe that pain is, not allowing them to get to that space. But my point is, by being around like-minded people, if you can't be around like-minded people physically right now, or maybe you've not been that way for a long time, for whatever reasons, right? This is the new way. This is the better way, right? And you can still exchange that energy with people, and you're investing in yourself, but you've got to want to do that. You may talk the talk, and you may listen to what we're saying right now, but there may be just that final step that's stopping them. And what that may be, I don't know, but
it's usually fear.
Fear, yeah, I would, yeah, yes, okay. It's such a powerful one, isn't it? The fear is so powerful. How it stops, because don't you? You just know, what you should be doing in some respects, don't you? When it's even in the subtle times. And through that knowing, there are no mistakes, are there? Even if you think to yourself, well, I think I know what it is, but if I go down that path, am I going to waste my time? Is it, am I, better to stick where I am, or whatever that's putting you off? Sometimes you've just got to flow, haven't you? And go with what's calling you.
Well, like Theo tells us, there's no wrong choices. There are only choices. And that you go down that path and you're going to learn something. Even if it's only that, oops, I would like to do the other thing, which is a tremendous knowing, isn't it? Then you know for sure, this isn't it. I'd rather do the other. So there's always those opportunities. And I think a lot of us get stopped by being afraid to decide, because we're afraid we'll make a wrong decision, a wrong choice.
Or, life's going so quick, I'm in my whatever age that you think that you are now, right? And, I should be, I can't take the risk. I need to stay where I am. But at some point in this life that you're living, at some point you're going to get to the point where you need to be, aren't we? We all get there in the end, don't we?
We do. Yeah, we do. Yeah, and Kevin, one of the barometers to use for which road to go down, if you have multiple paths to choose from, which one gives you the most butterflies? Which one makes you the most tingly, nervous?
Yeah.
And typically, Theo will tell you this. And by the way, we spend a little bit of time in the retreat talking about using our intuition for, to optimize our decision making, to take us down maybe the path that might bring us the most joy. But Theo will tell you that if you take the path that gives you the most butterflies and makes you the most nervous, because that's going to have the highest reward when you do that. And it's also going to be the path that's going to have the greatest growth as well.
Wow. Yeah. Yes. Easier said than done, right?
Yes, easier said than done.
Yeah.
Correct.
And there's many, but I like it. I really, I agree with what you're both saying there, and Theo's teaching most definitely when it comes from that perspective. I know we've talked about getting or bringing Theo on this conversation. I think that might be important actually.
Yeah, let's do that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. You want to do that right now? You ready?
I think, well, as ready as I'm ever going to be with Theo, but yes.
Okay. All right. I'll invite them in.
Thank
Here
you.
we go. It is the beginning, is it not? We are appreciative of the opportunity to be of service unto you. You may ask.
Thank you, Theo. It's beautiful to reconnect with you again, and we all appreciate you being here. Yes, so we were having that discussion as you were here in there about the soul, the connecting with the soul and how important that is, and how it's our inner voice is always our true voice in a sense. And fear, we were saying how much fear gets in the way of the human. Well, I'll use the word joy, but some may use another word for it. But what do you think? I mean, is that right, what I'm saying, or what's your take on how really fear is there? We need fear, but it shouldn't put us off what we're really trying to achieve or what we think we want.
It can be an example of resisting your path that your soul is inspiring or bringing you forth to do. So fear protects you at times, or it can be resistant and keep you from moving forward. But you know the difference between the two different fears. Fear of resistance appearing as fear, or fear, true fear, that is there to protect you physically. Yes?
Do you believe in mistakes? I mean, are there mistakes? Can we go down the wrong path, or is there no such a thing?
There are only opportunities of growth. What you may call a mistake, if you're viewing something with a judgment that it was wrong, but it is not wrong because you chose it. So you chose that experience purposefully. And so in that moment, it is good, rather than to judge the self, to ask, what is the blessing and what is the gift I am to receive from this experience?
Absolutely. And do you think it's something that if we all had that experience, or just gave ourselves that chance to listen to our intuition and just sit with it sometimes, how much would our lives change in a sense?
If you allowed that to occur, that type of direction and understanding and awareness, with that intention and paying attention, you would have a life well lived with ease and grace.
I guess it comes back to fear, doesn't it? Because sometimes if we were to go into that space, maybe there would be some alarms going off on some of the things that we've got going on in our life right now that, that we've resisted, that we know weren't quite right or didn't fit where we are, but we've just, we're sort of trapped in our own thinking sometime, or the thinking of what others think is the right thing for us, or whatever it may be.
Correct. When you've given your power away, is what you're talking about, to the good opinions of others may not be so good for you. Yes?
Absolutely. But that takes a bit of time on this planet sometimes to go through a few different experiences to really understand that maybe that it's not serving us.
Yes.
Yes.
Experience is the greatest teacher, isn't it?
It seems to be on this level, doesn't it? Yes, absolutely. And some experiences are difficult, and some experiences are really joyous. But I think every experience, yes, absolutely, has its benefits and its learning from. And yes, if we just listen to our soul, sometimes we would understand. But do you think sometimes our soul is calling out for different reasons? It's not always for the reasons of what we think it is. There's actually something deeper going on.
There's always something deeper going on, because your intellect, your human mind, that can't know all there is to know about your growth path as your soul does know. And so what's important when one makes a choice that is difficult, know, as you spoke, the joyous choices and the difficult choices. The difficult choices grow you greatest because it puts you on alert and paying attention to listening to that higher self, your soul note, if you would. Where when it is a joyous experience, you'll enjoy it, but often take it for granted. Yes?
Absolutely, all the time, and we always say to ourselves, "No, I won't do that anymore," but we do.
Yes, because it's easier to accept the good. But that which is, and we're not going to call it bad, we're going to call it challenging. That which challenges you grows you the most. But most often, if you knew those challenges, how they were going to express themselves before they did, you would have avoided it. Your soul, yes, your soul drew you perfectly down that path to get the lesson that the soul desired to experience.
Do you feel that when we have a natural ability, like an ability to give people readings, that it's not about keeping that gift to ourselves, that ability to ourselves? It's also there to help others. So we need to do both those things. Or does what I'm saying make sense?
It does. It does. We would give you a preference of a word to use rather than help. Help infers that one is lesser than, and that is not true. So what we would say, as you would come together in a collaborative way, assist each other in that growth. Assisting is a different vibration, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely it is. Yes, because we are all equal. We may not feel that or see that sometimes on this level, but absolutely we are. I mean, if we're a soul having a human experience, well, it's all from the same energy, isn't it? If that's what this is, it may be, I've always said it may be much, much, much more than that, but to keep things simple for this, yeah.
And it's good to have collaborative beings assisting each other. For humans are collaborators. They're not competitive, even though there are those times where it appears competitive in the comparing mind. But that's very off-putting, with pain and suffering, to compete and compare, when the soul's desire is to collaborate, to assist each other.
Absolutely, it is. And do you feel as well that at the time that we're living in right now, that by helping others or by helping yourself to go down this path and tune into that greater part of yourself, it's actually it is an effect on other people that you don't even realize, right? And yes, and also it's the time is now for acceleration. So you're actually accelerating your path as well in ways that you probably can't understand as you're doing it.
That's true as well. You may have a sense or a feeling about it, but not a full understanding until it's experienced.
It's your time now. It's your time. That's really what you're feeling, and it's your time to wake up. This lifetime's a lifetime of expansion more than any other lifetime, maybe.
That's true as well. This time is a time of consciousness shift that has never happened before on this planet, in the sense of consciousness. And it is in this time that those embodied, such as yourself, have chosen to be here for this fuller awareness of that divine essence of your soul and the powers within that. That you're not limited to a physical body, your soul's much larger than your body. And you're utilizing the body, your earth suit, to navigate this planet. But the soul is eternal.
So not to get complicated with that, it could even be when we say, okay, is it my soul? Is it my guides? Whoever that may be, it could even be an aspect of yourself from some other place that's pulling you, as that's pulling you forward, that wants to pull you. It's not just what we think it is. It might be something so much greater, in a sense.
It is greater, but it's not as complex or confusing or complicated as one might think. It's very simple once one makes a commitment to, as you spoke, awaken.
And again, I'll just reiterate this: that the issues that we're all going to have things to deal with on this life path. We can't get away from that, right? It's just what it is, and it should be that way as well, right? Because maybe deep down that's what we want, right? And
of course it is.
Absolutely. And whatever markers we've got that are coming up in our life plan, that with free will that we're going to go towards, it just makes it easier. It makes whatever bigger, anything you're going to go through, having this ability to tune in, it just makes the whole process easier in a sense.
It does. For what you're talking about is when you have resistance appearing as fear, it makes things harder. So if you're moving in the direction of your soul's whisper and you relinquish that resistance, then the flow comes through you, for you, as you, moving forward with an expectation of expansion and growth, with an enthusiasm of opportunity, of expansion. It's a different energetic altogether, and actually easier.
So it's almost like if anything's if you've gone off path, for example, and there is no going off path, but if you've taken the sort of more resistive road, let's just say that, right? Also by tuning in as well, you will ease that resistiveness on to the sort of extremes that you've gone to, and maybe take a slightly lighter way out of the hard path that you were on. You don't have to go through the hardest of times. You can come off that wheel and go into maybe a slower lane, or maybe a less resistive, more loving experience from whatever it is that you're currently going through.
Yes, because the education you've gotten is to tell you you can choose it not to be hard. For you are the creator and the chooser, the decider of life. How do you want it to be? Most often, humans have been taught through generational patternings that have been passed along for centuries that one must work hard and one does not deserve, is not worthy. And so, as you come into a fuller awareness of one's self-worth, and that life can be lived with ease and grace, the changing of that mindset through experience is profound.
Where do you see the human race going in the not too distant future, with us all becoming more aware and actually embracing the idea that we can talk to our, that our intuitions, our higher self talking to us, and that we're, having those internal conversations and trusting that that's our higher self coming through? Where would you see us going in that space?
We see you as a race, a human race or species, if you would, because you are one. And that's what your pandemic or virus has shown you throughout the world. It doesn't decide that the country you live in is better than another. It does not do that. It's an equal opportunity for growth for everyone. And so you're better together than you are apart. And so when this happens and you come into alignment with that magnificence, you will collaborate with each other. What will happen in this time in the world, you will notice the political shifts that are changing. And those that lead in the world will be the sciences and the arts. And there will be political structures, but there will be change for the benefit of all, globally, not just in the country where you are living, but in all countries. This is the time you're living in. It's magnificent, and it's unfolding as we speak.
Yes, and would you say it's an act of kindness when you take the time to tune into yourself, when you take the time to listen to your intuition for once, that you're actually loving yourself and you're being kinder to yourself to do that process?
Yes, that's true. And when one can love the self unconditionally, and that seems a lofty act, but that's the time you're living in. Unconditional love is not a feeling, it's a solid state of being. It's the God in you. So, being that, you are at peace inside, comfortable in your own skin. Many say they're seeking happiness. Happiness is relative to events, people, things, but joy and unconditional love is a solid state of being and peace. No matter what is happening externally in the world, what challenge there might be, if one has that solid state inside, can navigate any challenge that comes with ease and grace.
With your support, do you feel that those who maybe come into this work, or those watching this right now, who are thinking, well, yes, this all sounds fantastic, but what if I, trust myself to go down to, really, connect with that greater part of myself, but yet nothing comes through, and I'm scared of that.
Then nothing comes through. Do you see, you're giving yourself the opportunity, the possibility of something grand. And you are a divine being deserving greatness. So Give yourself that opportunity.
Okay. Yeah, and maybe would you say there's an aspect of this work where you've just got to even play with the imagination just to maybe ease that process a little bit?
Of course. But no, if you're thinking about it, it sounds good, you're inspired, there's something there for you. No doubt.
I think it always starts from that space, doesn't it? Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, I think it does. Well, I've really enjoyed having this chance just to connect with you for this. Is there any sort of final message when it comes to, the soul and connecting with the soul that you might like to give?
We would encourage all of you to do it. To connect. It's what you've been born to do. Be a connector to all that you are, all you've been, and all you will be. This is the time.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you.
We are complete for this moment. God's love unto you. Good day.
Very interesting. I mean, when you Marcus, you listen back to some of the channelings sometimes. I mean, there must be something that's sort of new that's coming in that you've not heard before, or it's said in a different way from a previous time that you've had the experience.
Well, first of all, welcome back to Sheila. And yeah, Kevin, I mean, it's like we were talking about earlier. We're just perpetually curious about what's next. The state of being that Theo was talking about of unconditional love, the process that Theo's sharing in a number of different ways in this conversation was about soul integration. The process of essentially reframing, repatterning beliefs about the self that are anything other than unconditionally loving because they're untrue. They're mentoring us to returning to our true nature, who we really are, the vibration of our full soul. And as a human being, that is a limitless pursuit, and at least the way it seems right now to us. But every moment, every day, every experience, every personal experience that we have, which enhances or arcs up our personal vibrational frequency to becoming more and more of that which we really are, just brings in more of that unconditional love, brings in more of that joy, more of that super comfortability in the skin that Theo was just talking about. And indeed, expands our psychic abilities. It expands us into experiencing the multidimensionality of our soul. I keep asking them about the sixth dimension, and they keep telling me to stay in my body right now here in the fifth dimension. But we're moving there. We're moving into that expression where we can be in and out of our body at will. We can be exploring and traversing the multidimensionality of the various dimensions. And our life becomes magical and becomes a life full of miracles. And that's where we're heading now. That's really, truly, as Theo just said, that's why we came to be here right now. That's why we incarnated in these human bodies, discovering our passion. And our passion, and I speak for Sheila, is not just in sharing this information and sharing Theo and assisting people and opening up psychically and spiritually, but to indeed experience it ourselves every moment, every day. It never stops.
I can't imagine what that must be like. I really can't. Yeah, it's a nice space.
Everybody can be in this space. That's what Theo's teaching all of us to do. That's why we're so excited about being able to create this virtual experience for a full weekend of immersing yourself into Theo's teaching. This is our invitation, obviously, to all your viewers, is to come and join us and just play in this energy that we're talking about right now. And your questions are just awesome, Kevin. And you get such great information from Theo in terms of what's possible, and also to discover the power of getting tapped into our intuition. And to Sheila's point earlier in the conversation, to be able to apply that and use that confidently without any fear in our everyday lives. That's what's really cool about this.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is a really, important event that you're putting on, and it's the one thing that where most people can get that start from as well. It's that sort of easy entrance level in as well. This particular type of gathering. Do you know what I mean? Where how many times have we all been doing this work and we've not even thought about it that we're doing it? Do you know what I mean? We're doing it all the time, but to have that mentoring there as well, it's really important. And have you ever had times where you've put this on before and people are sort of semi tuning into their sort of clairs, but there's also something else coming through them as well. There's something else tapping on the door.
Are you referencing possibly a guide that might come through to them or something? Yeah, of course, of course. It opens the door for possibility in a safe environment with people who speak your language, who get your interest in this. So it's a safe place to say, I'm a person interested in being a channel. I'm a person interested in doing healing. I know I can do these things, or I have been doing them, but I've nobody to talk to about it. It's a gathering together, like-minded people that support each other, and it's really fun because everybody's pulling for everybody else to have some fabulous experiences.
Yeah, and you may find that you're just in a bit of a low place right now, and just to have that bit of connection, whatever it is you're going through, and I know some people are going through a lot. It's just what you need, just to bring you back on your path, right? And yeah, yes, I think it's wonderful what you do. Is there any sort of final message, guys, that you might just like to give?
Yeah, gosh, just have fun with this. Just really find the joy in it, and just trust. That this is who we are. This is what we came here to do. Like Theo said, my message to everyone: if you're feeling the whisper at all, come join us and discover some things about yourself that you've known, but maybe you haven't personally experienced yet. And meet some incredible people from around the world, and get into the energy of Theo and enjoy the opportunity. Sheila's been doing this work for 50 years, and there's nobody that I know on this planet that is more qualified, more giving, with a greater heart, and with more incredible information coming through her than Sheila and Theo is just teachers of teachers. They are, and for all of us to have this opportunity, we've significantly reduced the investment. Because it's virtual, honoring the time we're living in. It's a front row center seat. It's a super intimate environment. All the retreats that we've been doing for our private mentoring program. This is our first really public virtual retreat that we've done in a year and a half. The feedback we've been getting is that these have been just powerfully transformational. I know this one will be no different than everything else that we've been doing. So we just want to invite everybody to come join us and play. And then we're just deeply, and I speak for myself and Sheila to say we're deeply appreciative, Kevin, of the opportunity to be with you. We consider you a dear friend of ours. We love you. And I know, Sheila, that I know you've got some things to share as well about all of this.
Well, in the illustrious words of Nike, just do it. If you're being called to it, just do it. You have nothing to lose and everything to gain. I speak that as truth to you, because you're so much more than you can probably even understand right now. You have so much more in you and of you to share in your life, and come explore those possibilities and have fun doing it. And Kevin, thank you so much for inviting us and doing this with us. And I look forward to you coming to the event. It's going to be so much fun. It's a party. So come on and come to the
Oh,
party.
I'm all up for a party right now. Trust me, I tell you, absolutely. Okay, yeah, and I just want to remind people that's on the that's going to be April the 24th and 25th. The link has been coming up on the screen, and it's in the description below. And your website, guys, is
AskTheo.com.
wonderful. So I just want to say thank you, and until next time, I really appreciate you coming on the show. Thank you both very much.
So we'll just say so long, not goodbye.
That's better, yeah. So yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.